What's next doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by chance. What's next happens when experience meets expertise, when data meets dollars, and when steel meets earth. What's next happens when the promising work of Pioneer state-of-the-art research centers meets the unsparing challenges of more than 17,000 on-farm trials. Our ultimate goal is to bring the next seed breakthrough to your fields, because Pioneer isn't just our name, it's our mission. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Thursday edition of the show. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 and its excellent agricultural focused lineup a part of your workday. And also a big shout out, as usual, to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. That's right, you can also get the podcast of this show, and you can do that by downloading or becoming a subscriber wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, today it's I was going to say it's Agronomic Monday. Apparently I think it's Monday. No, today is the Farmer Rapid Fire. That's right. We're going to talk to farmers across the country and find out how they're making on their farms, in the fields, in the barn, wherever they are. As chilly. Yep, things have sort of turned more to a cooler side in Western Canada, of course, as we've been chatting about, but this wet weather in Eastern Canada is not helpful to the corn harvest. I imagine we're going to hear about that for sure here today. And the Farmer Rapid Fire is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. For more than 90 years, Pioneer has developed and tested products to meet your local challenges. Now, they've got a whole bunch of great products and technologies. The new Optimum Glide canola, Enlist E3 soybeans, to performing corn products and industry-leading traits and technologies to maximize your yield potential. Pioneer's on-the-ground teams can help you get the right products for your fields. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more. And of course, Optimum Glide is our sponsor of our Agritechnica coverage that is coming up here in a very short period of time. We take off to Germany a week from now. That's right. About this time, beginning on a plane, headed to Hanover, Germany, to cover Agritechnica, and that is all brought to you by Optimum Glide. So when you're talking about canola this fall and asking about varieties and technologies, make sure you ask about Optimum Glide. Now, today, our lineup of farmers, a bunch of veterans. Okay, we got Rob Sommerville. He is just outside of special areas in Alberta, like Stettler area. We've also got Daryl Fransoo, who is a farmer from Glaslyn, Saskatchewan. We've got Aaron Bowman, who's from Hampton, Ontario. And we also have Ashley Knapton, who is she's a pioneer agronomist, focused in the area actually of she's like the dairy strategic accounts manager, I think her title is. So really focused on the quality and getting that better silage crop. And so we're going to talk to her today as well. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find us across all the different social media platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. I guess we shouldn't say Twitter anymore. It is X. I gotta get that in my vernacular. I gotta change that. So, yes, we are on X. Just sounds kind of weird. Doesn't it sound weird? I think it sounds really weird. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. So much for the World Series. Kind of sucked. Not good. Yeah, I was disappointed. But anyway, it's there is solace in the fact that there's so much talk about those two ex-Blue Jays, Gabby Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel Jr., performing so well for the D-backs throughout the back end of the season, and Blue Jays lost the trade. They looked like Blue Jays, to be honest with you, in the World Series. Both had horrible series, so not real contributors whatsoever. That was really, I think, one of the reasons why the D-backs struggled like they did offensively is those two just did not come through whatsoever. So there you go. Maybe we did. Maybe the trade's not as lopsided as people want to make in terms of Blue Jays getting Varsho the other way. So we'll have to see how 2024 works out. Now everybody kind of moves on from baseball. We can really focus on sports like hockey and football now, if you weren't already doing that. I put out a tweet the other day. Can we just is it too early, or can we just recognize that the Oilers and the Flames are brutal? Like, not good. Flames lost again, I think, yesterday. Just brutal. Not good. Man, I haven't been a Flame season ticket holder for, it's got to be like 10 years now. I really like the Flames, but I am glad I'm not financially committed to that anymore. There's no way that team makes the playoffs. Mark it down, I said it. No way that team makes the playoffs. Apparently Daryl Sutter wasn't the problem. Apparently he wasn't. He was the scapegoat last year, not the problem this year. And I guess the players have to look in the mirror at some point. That's enough sports. We better get to the farming. Yes, we better talk about farming here today in the Farmer Rapid Fire. It's brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, and we'll be right back right after this.
What's next for your fields? At Pioneer, delivering industry-leading genetics drives everything we do. From the scientists in the lab to our local teams with boots on the ground, we are determined to get there first. Developing top-performing products, proven in more growing conditions than ever before. Pioneer. What's next happens here. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com. I'm the host of The Word, and I love doing The Word. I love the questions. I love the challenges. I love having to apply agronomics to all over the globe and areas outside of my normal jurisdiction. Also, I love the feedback the most, where growers challenge me, tell me about their plot results, help me to learn. The Word, absolutely the best part of my day.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, to Special Areas, Alberta. And we're talking to Rob Sommerville. Hey, Rob, how's it going?
It's fine.
Good. Well, what's happening on the ranch this week?
Well, today I'm loading, gathering up and stacking some large square bales we bought out by Red Deer.
Shortage of feed?
Oh yeah. But we're glad to have found some. So the arrangement was the fellow with the bales couldn't load, so we brought our equipment over, and we're a little ways from home, but we're getting her done.
Yeah. How hard was that process of trying to find not only feed, but at a price that wasn't unrealistic, so to speak?
Oh, I think we got lucky. It was doable. But there was some people we kind of knew out here by Red Deer, and I think they knew that we were looking for feed and kind of made a deal, and magic happened.
Yeah. As you indicated, dry conditions again this past year. Not I guess uncommon in special areas. There's a reason why it's called special areas, but it's got to be kind of, I don't know how many years out of what it is here, but it's got to be getting a little bit tiresome and a little bit taxing when it comes to trying to figure out the sustainability.
Yes, it is. It's been too many droughts, and we're in the county of Stettler, so we're 6 miles north of special areas, But those guys south and especially east of us, they had a really, really hard summer. We were around 50% of normal rainfall. And then as you go south, it just got worse. Some people were 40, some were 30% of normal rainfall. That's a hard year.
Yeah. So from a makeup of the herd standpoint, what are some of the production decisions that you had to make to kind of get to the other side of this?
Well, I'm not sure we are on the other side of this, actually. We haven't sold. We still got our cows. We have not reduced our herd yet.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
That might happen next spring.
Okay.
We're trying to hang on, but a lot of people have sold down their herds. For us, what we did is we have crop acres and cattle, and we took all our crop acres for feed, including the silage. We silaged the canola. We silaged everything we could. We baled the rest. We're buying some feed. I hope that's a smart move. I don't know. Time will tell.
Have you silaged the canola before?
This is the fourth time we've silaged canola. Yeah,
and
worked good every time.
Oh, really? Okay.
But it's good silage, but it's a cash. We grew the canola for cash flow.
Yeah.
And then you put it in the pit, and the cash flow don't happen the same.
Yeah.
So that's a hard move. That's a hard decision. But to go out and to depend on the marketplace for feed this year can be hit or miss or expensive at the best.
Yeah, for sure. And there's been a lot of coverage of, strong feeder market this fall, but there's another side to the discussion from a cost perspective, and especially when we're on the shortage side of moisture, it's not enjoying the total fruits. Let's just put it that way. No. of what the market brings.
Yeah, our feed bill is, and even though a lot of it is homegrown, we still have a dollar value on it. It's a big number. We don't sell weaned calves. We'll background all our own calves and then sell them at fats. But one thing that may change this year is we may have to let our calves go as backgrounders just because of the feed bill and the cash flow and everything's so tight. So we'll let those feeder calves go before we'll let the cows go. But that might happen.
Do you feed in a someone else's yard, like custom feeding, or do you have a feed lot set up yourself to feed them out?
Well, yeah, it's just our own calves. Feedlot's kind of a big word, but yeah, we have pens set up and we feed them here.
Yeah, okay. No, yeah, that's cool.
And buy the barley. Well, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And so we won't get the full fruits of the higher wean calf market. We won't see that cash flow for us is pushed down the road at least a year. We're hoping things stay strong long enough that we can actually get our money out of these animals. But on the other side of the coin, so we've retained ownership of last year's wean calves, and they're in our feedlot, and they've certainly gone up in value. Retained ownership has worked this last little while.
Yeah. As you're talking through all this, Rob, what's sort of rattling around in my head is when we're making really tough management decisions where there is opportunity costs of those decisions, like you're talking about the silaging and the canola as an example.
Yeah.
Knowing your costs is just, it's hard to make good management decisions if you don't know your costs. I just, every time I chat with you, I get the sense that you have a pretty sharp pencil and you're using your calculator to sort of to look at the numbers and make sure you're factoring those numbers in instead of making some emotional decisions.
Yeah, well, we hope so. We try, but still, sometimes you get locked into the industry, and you can know your costs, but you still don't like the numbers. But you're on that train ride, and yeah, that's where we're at. We're hoping to see some brighter days at the light. There may be a light at the end of the tunnel. We need some stronger prices for a while to justify the money that we have been putting into these cattle, hanging on. Maybe it'll work. Yeah, I don't know. There's some risk. There's a gamble.
Well, risk is there. There's no shortage of risk. We've well established, and a big part of this, in terms of the light at the end of the tunnel, part of it is this La Nina switch in the weather pattern. That'll play a big role. Like that, it is maybe the X factor in all of this to switch things around, and all of a sudden be able to think about this a little bit differently.
Yeah, I forecasting the weather is a tough game, but just on an industry-wide basis, we're due for some good years, or it's going to be kind of ugly. I know people. You mentioned special areas, but people are in the depths of special areas. They've had at least three tough years in a row. How many of those can you stand? There comes a limit. We here have been running droughts about every other year, and you're not making money. Droughts are expensive.
Yeah,
and I don't know what the right decision is. And so much of it will depend on next year's weather and the year after that. It better darn well start raining sometime.
Yep, need to replenish, I should say, some of those moisture. Well, when I say replenish the moisture reserve, I'm understating that.
Yeah. Well, and when you mention moisture, I'm telling you, it's just unreal. It's just no water here. There is no water. I don't know what people are going to do. The dugouts are dry, the lakes, even the geese couldn't find water. It's a dry old piece of ground out here, but it'll rain.
Yeah. Well, Rob, I really appreciate you sharing your experience. All the best to you, and we'll chat with you a little bit later. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a good day.
I was at a meeting earlier today, and I made the comment, I'm not raising livestock myself. I'm not growing crops. I don't, we're not farming anymore. I just basically do this full time. And I am tired of drought. I want to talk about too much water on the prairies. I really do. And I know too much water can be just as bad, or if not worse, than drought. But we need a change. We need a change, and you can hear it in Rob's voice there. It's got to rain sometime, but this is what the rancher's dealing with in some of these geographies is, what do I need to do to try to get to the other side of this? And the problem is that where that line is, where that light at the end of the tunnel is for some of these ranchers, it's undetermined. It's not like, I know we have to last 18 months. I know we have to get through the next 12 months. I know we have to get to the last 24 months. That those goalposts keep on changing. And so that's what makes the strategy really hard, and what you're fending against, because it takes so long. So, like, here's the thing: if in 2024 you don't grow canola because there's a drought, you can go right back to it in 2025. If you sell down part of your herd in the cow-calf industry, it takes years to build back up. It's not just that quick reversal. And so what people are faced with right now is, if you make the decision to, hey, we got to reduce the herd. Okay, we don't want to buy a bunch of feed. We got to reduce the herd. And then all of a sudden the rain starts, you're kicking yourself. And it's like one of those regrettable decisions. And that's really, really difficult. So I really feel for the rancher in some of these parts. You heard it in Rob's voice there. it's very concerning. Mother Nature needs to come through here very, very much so and reverse this drought bias course that she has been on. And in some pockets it was better this year. There's no doubt about that. But even some of those pockets that got treated fairly well, pretty dry at the back end of the growing season. So we need to have a full recapture of those moisture reserves and have some really good wet snow in the spring of 24 in many, many parts. So, hey, actually, you know what? We're going to go next to an area of Saskatchewan where I think they had decent moisture, just a little dry at the back end of the season. We'll hear all about that when we talk to Daryl Fransoo from Glaslyn, Saskatchewan. You're listening to RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
Whether you're a rookie soybean grower or a seasoned vet, the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com has exactly what you need to stay in the game. The latest research and the best agronomic advice from industry experts, along with local and global market coverage on demand, anywhere, anytime. Make this growing season your best growing season with the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com.
As you look ahead to the next growing season, there's a lot to consider when it comes to your crop. You need every possible advantage available to you. The Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com has everything you need to make the best choice for you and your farm. On-demand videos with leading industry experts, available anywhere, anytime. Go into the season confident and ready with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com.
I get to spend every day talking to farmers in the ag industry through RealAgriculture.com and RealAg Radio. But nothing is more fun than speaking to an audience live and in person. If you're planning an ag event, book a Real Agriculture speaker to make it a successful and memorable experience. Email shaney@realagriculture.com and you can book myself or any other Real Ag personality to speak at your event. Bring your audience all the fun, insight, and energy of Real Agriculture. And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, to Glaslyn, Saskatchewan. We're talking to Daryl Fransoo. Hey, Daryl, how's it going today?
Good, Shaun. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. So what's happening on the farm here this week?
You know, things are finally slowing down. We had a lot of grain to haul after harvest, and we're still working away at that a little bit, but things are slowing down finally. Yeah. Snow starting to fly in your area? We do have a little bit of snow on the ground. It's been cold for a couple weeks now, but I guess it's that time of year, right?
How did harvest go? Because we've heard from a lot of farmers on the prairies, like, better than expectations. Was that your experience, or was it different?
You know, we were one of the fortunate ones that had kind of moisture all year. We never got depleted in that department, so we expected good yields, and we ended up with good yields. We were definitely average plus, and harvest went smooth as could be. So we're fortunate that way.
Well, that is good. So have you been able to get a bunch of fall work done then too?
I kind of lied when I said we got depleted of moisture right at the end here during harvest. We haven't had much moisture for about 2 months. So we've actually decided just to leave everything stand. We haven't touched anything. Hopefully we catch as much snow as we can, and we have a good start next spring. Okay. Yeah. Now yeah. So talk about that a little bit. Do you typically not leave a lot of standing stubble, or do you just purposely cut higher, or what'd you do? You know, we did cut a little higher this year, thinking of that snowfall. But normally we get everything harrowed. We get one pass in the fall, but this year we just let everything stand, and hopefully it works out for us. And we'll have to hit it in the spring, but you know, we might catch that extra inch or two of moisture in the winter. That's what we're hoping for. Anyway. Yeah. And Daryl, you're in an area like in northwestern Saskatchewan where, like, you can get a lot of snow, can't you? Like in a normal year, it's not out of the realm of possibility, right? No, we can get a pile of snow, but you know, if you don't have anything to catch it, it just ends up in the bushes or ends up in the valleys, and you can't really make use of it. So with the stubble being a little taller, we're hoping it pays off. I guess we'll see. Do you do all your own grain trucking on the farm, or do you guys hire out? We do the majority of it. If it gets really busy, we will get some local guys to help us out. But the majority is done by us. Yeah, well, that keeps you busy all winter. Yeah, it does. When you have a few hundred loads, and we're kind of in a good spot, but a bad spot. Any delivery point is over an hour from us, so we can only get a couple loads per truck a day. We're lucky we have competition. We got Crush, we got Ethanol, we got all the elevators, but they're all an hour away. So it takes a long time to haul a few hundred loads of grain.
Yeah, it's kind of a balancing act, right? So if you had one option that was 10 minutes away, you're sort of like held hostage from a marketing standpoint. But if you got options, but they're all about an hour away, I almost rather have the options, to be honest with you.
Yeah, some days I wish we could be done hauling grain in a few days, like some guys back home that are 5 minutes from the elevator. But we definitely have the advantage. Like I said, we have Crush, and they're always above market. We got Ethanol; they're good to deal with, and every line company is around here. So there's pros and cons, right?
Yeah. How's the marketing going? You got that all figured out?
Yeah, I wish. I think we've done pretty good on our wheat. We've maybe missed the boat on canola on some, but you make those decisions and you live with them. You have to be happy with them, or it just eats you apart. So do the best you can and kind of hope for the best. Make some good decisions and bad decisions, and usually it averages out.
Well, I know you follow very closely what's happening on the national scene. I'm curious your thoughts. What you thought about last week? People in the Maritimes getting, I guess, a 3-year exemption or waiver on carbon tax on heating their homes. We heard from Premier Moe. We heard from Premier Smith between Saskatchewan and Alberta. Not very happy. What was your reaction in terms of some of what happened here last week?
Yeah, I pretty much stand in lockstep with Premier Moe. I think he's doing the right thing on this file. We got Bill 234 that's sitting in the Senate and just kind of getting pushed back, and that'd be some nice relief for farmers. But there's some politicking going on there, and unfortunately, it's not making its way through as fast as it should. But there's if you're gonna play one part of the country against the other, I think you're just asking for trouble. That's how I look at it. If you believe in the carbon tax or not, it has to be enforced equally, and this obviously isn't. So I think honestly, this could be the end of the carbon tax as we know it. If it slowly gets eroded, there's no legs for it to stand on. So maybe that's a good thing for farmers, but that's how I view it. You can't pick one part of the country and kind of forget about the other part. That's not how Canada works.
Yeah, I share your, I've had a few people that have sent me feedback and been very upset with people in the Maritimes. And I got nothing against, that was my reaction on Friday's show when we talked about this with John Barlow, Shadow Minister for Agriculture, is don't be mad at the people at the Maritimes. Point your criticism towards the government that made this choice to do such. And I agree, kind of, once again, pitting sides against each other. The only result is divisiveness. And we could use a lot more ways to come together at this point than find ways to be apart on some of these things.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm happy for the people in Maritimes. They got a little more money in their pocket, and they can live day to day better. But you can't do that to one part of the country and say that to the other part of the country, you don't deserve this, or you don't need this, or it doesn't affect you in the same way, even though it does.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can see this being the end of the liberal carbon tax as we see it. You can't undermine it like that and think it's going to be successful.
Yeah, definitely crack showing there. Indeed. Are you fully engulfed now in 2024 planning, or where does that sit? How does that usually work on the farm?
Yeah, it's always an ongoing process. We usually buy our fertilizer in, June-ish, July-ish, so it kind of starts there. We got most of our acres finalized, most of the stuff booked. So a lot of it's already on its way. Just haul some grain here now and hope for some moisture.
Yes.
And that goes for all across the prairies, right?
So you got all your fertilizer bought then?
We got 90% of it bought. There's a little bit more urea that we need, but pretty much all of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy on the show on yesterday, and he talked about how we have seen a bit of a slough in diesel prices since early September. But it was nice to talk to someone like him who's his life is committed to being an analyst for the petroleum industry. And it sounded like we're kind of going to go one of two ways there, I guess. But he wasn't rebel rousing in terms of like, hey, we're definitely going higher no matter what. It was like, here's some indicators you got to follow. What do you do on diesel? Do you just buy when you need it, or do you do any pre-buys?
That's probably something where we maybe lack a little bit of storage. We can get enough on farm to get us through one season, to get us through seeding, spraying, or harvest. So we don't have enough capacity to really do a big pre-buy. So it's kind of as it's needed. When it gets low, we'll fill everything up, but we don't have enough capacity to really play that market, I would say.
But you even have that, having enough for one season is I'd have to look back at some of the numbers when we surveyed on that about a year ago, but I think that's more than a lot of people have. So you're probably in a better spot than you think. Yeah,
we could be. And, I was actually going through the prices yesterday, and we paid as much. I don't know what it is today, but we paid as much as $1.40 for on-farm diesel. So I know it got down to about $1.10, but it is definitely a place you can save some money on if you're proactive.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, Daryl, thanks so much for joining us here this week. Really appreciate it. Good luck with some of that grain trucking, and I'm sure I will see you somewhere at a farm conference sometime in the winter here.
Yeah, we'll be at Grow Canada in about a month from now if you're down.
I am there. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you go. We could have a pint at Grow Canada. Okay, Daryl, thanks a lot, man.
Take care, Shaun.
I think Daryl is very much onto something here, that this exemption given to Atlantic Canadian provinces on the carbon tax when it comes to trying to convert them to heat pumps, here's the reality is that I think this is the sort of the first crack. How can you actually tell Canadians, if you had more Liberal MPs, we may have heard you? That is really poor. And I think Daryl's on to it. And I short-term thinking, lack of looking at some of the political consequences, and it just speaks to me of immense desperation by the federal Liberals in trying to just hold on to anything, specifically those Atlantic seats. And it's very convenient. The lift is, or the exemption, I should say, is until after the election. So vote for us, and then we'll tax you again. Come on. People see through that. And the thing is, basically on 234, and it has to do with the carbon tax and the exemptions when it related to farming activities, there's a 10-year sunset clause. We're not even talking about something in perpetuity. I find it immensely frustrating. Anyway, that's my opinion. You may have yours, and if you do have an opinion, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Aaron Bowman. That's right, Aaron Bowman's going to be here. He's from Hampton, Ontario. He'll be with us right after this. You're listening to RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
Infuse some energy into your next corporate event, customer meeting, or conference with RealAg Radio, Canada's national agriculture radio show. Create a unique experience at your next event with host Shaun Haney, broadcasting RealAg Radio live on Sirius XM, featuring exciting guests, captivating interviews, and the latest news from the agriculture community. Contact advertising at realagriculture.com or call 587-787-1795 to book your on location with RealAg Radio today.
Before you get back in the field this year, spend some time with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com. Get all the information you need on hybrid selection, planting depth, crop inputs, and more from a wide range of industry experts. A massive library of video content is available on demand when you need it most. Spend your time outside of the field, inside the classroom, with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com.
And we took the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, to Hampton, Ontario. We're talking to Aaron Bowman. Aaron, how's it going today?
It's going good, sir.
Okay, what's happening on the farm this week?
This week we're kind of in that transitional period, so we're getting ready to do corn. And on the Pioneer side, I'm just getting boxes broken down and getting any return bags kind of cleaned up, wrapped up, and ready for return to Chatham. So
nice. What's the status of corn harvest? You said you're just about to begin?
We are just about to begin. Probably, I'd say, majority of the people around me are in the same boat. People with their own storage have kind of started to poke into it pretty good now, but the seaway strike and a bit of hang-ups at the elevator have, I'll say, slowed that progress. We were pretty fortunate with the whole bean harvest. It was phenomenal, to be honest with you. But a good yields mean plugged up elevator. So yeah, that's what we kind of been the hold up.
Soybeans clearly beat your expectations.
Yeah, met my expectation just because we had so much rain. I figured it was going to be good, but yeah, for the most part, most of my customers, I haven't heard a complaint yet, and a lot are saying record yields for them. So yeah, we got pretty dry here end of August into September, and it's the top end yield off of a few varieties, especially longer day. But anything that was at 0.6, 0.4, even up to the 0.9, they did really, 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 really well.
You know, what's really the complaint and a justifiable one that I've heard from a lot of farmers in parts of Ontario is the wet weather, snowy and rainy and just kind of brutal. And I pulled up the weather forecast for Hampton, Ontario. You got some real adversity coming next week. I hate that sucks. I don't know how to put it, but that's gonna. It just really makes it when there's rain kind of forecasted in that 75 to 85% chance each of the days. That is going to be difficult for harvest.
Shaun, I said I wanted to talk to you, not to be talking about the weather.
I know. I'm sorry. I hate being the bear. I don't want to be that black cloud. It just, but it speaks to the challenges a lot are going through. Right now, that it's been a real slog here because of Mother Nature at this time providing wet conditions.
Unfortunately, I figured this was coming because we had to been 3 weeks, easy 3 weeks of absolutely beautiful, dry, sunny weather, and I figured the switch was going to get flipped at some point in time because we can't have it that good all fall. And so I figured we had to have some headaches at some point in time. And yeah, as you say, it looks like it's coming. Like down where we are, we've been pretty fortunate. We had a snowstorm yesterday, but for the most part, we've kind of dodged that. But north of me, I keep receiving pictures from guys, Little Britain, etc., that keep sending me pictures of snow. So I think it's here now.
Now, I think I heard from you. You're delivering directly to the elevator, so you're drying the corn down at the elevator.
Yeah. So on the organic side, we have to dry our own just because we have to keep it just almost like an IP program, obviously.
Right.
And all the rest goes to the elevator to be dried. They have a lot more capacity than our little dryer.
Yeah. So and I know like ideally it kind of gets thrown out the window, but ideally, what are you trying to take the corn off from a moisture perspective? And what do you like? What would be the ideal situation?
Ideal. When I don't have to pay carbon tax and it almost dries itself.
Well, okay, that very fair. Very, very fair. Yeah.
No, I'm kind of like, if it's 25, I am happy. It was kind of funny. I was listening to a podcast from, I think it was Ohio, and they're like, oh, we're mid 20s this year and we have to, wet corn. And I'm thinking 25, my God, I'm happy as a pig in whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, and it's so funny because variable. Like I have customers along the lake and into Fort Hope Welcome, and holy moly, they're like 18-21%. I hand shelled up at the farm here, and I was 29 a week ago, so that's like 32 probably through the combine. So it's a stark difference between areas. That yeah. So ideally, I like 25. I'll be rolling for sure. But no matter what, this probably the end of this week, I'll still take corn out. I'd rather be looking at it before it. So
yeah. Are you at all worried about some of the dawn issues, or where is in that OMAFRA survey with the GFO? Are you in one of the difficult zones, or how does that shake out?
I think we're in the blending zone, so I think our corn will probably make its way to southwestern Ontario to help out issues down there. No, overall we're not horrible. Yeah, there's some there. The classic, I saw a little bit more Western bean cutworm than normal this year, so I always think that's almost the vector that lets that in, or at least makes it a lot worse than normal. And Western meat cutworm was back in with a bit of a vengeance, especially as I head towards the lake. Like I really see their infestation down there. So
I like that, the blending zone. That's good. Well put. Any other fall work you're gonna like? Do you get all the weed in?
Yeah, wheat's all in. If I get corn off this week, I always still try to chase our corn ground with cereal rye. I know everyone thinks it's late, but I don't know. We've gone as late as December 10th and still got a nice green up in the spring prior to planting beans. So we kind of do it that way. Plus, it smashes up a bit of the stalks and just makes it a little nicer for spring no-till.
The earlier this week, there on the agronomist, Lindsay talked about compaction. Curious with some of this wet weather, what do you have on your combines? Do you have treads or do you got tracks?
We are definitely treads. I'm remember the STO farmer. I'm small time operator. I can't afford tracks or LSWs, but yeah, no, we definitely. If I went down to the compaction day in Coburg this year, and I can definitely tell you my combine is not spec'd the way that a lot of other people have made the switch or the change, and financially I'll have to basically look at that. But the pros and cons of it really comes down to just the dollar value of me making that switch. To be honest,
if money wasn't the object, what would you do?
Everywhere I've looked, and when I watched the compaction day, it just seemed like a track. A track on the combine, and then we all know it, but it's kind of neat to see it in person. The rear tire. That's another one that is so overlooked. Watching it go across the scales or across the little sensor that Alex Berry has there, and Ian McDonald, it was neat to see how much that rear tire can spike.
So what are people doing with the rear tire then?
Just put bigger.
Really?
Bigger is better, but more flotation, more area kind of thing, and drive on.
Yeah. You probably, if you look back at some, a lot older machines, that back tire was very small.
We had an 8820, and I'll tell you that one was very narrow. I think they call it a rice tire or something like that, but it was really narrow when you think of the weight of that old girl was. It for sure. But again, compaction was not as, I'll say, whatever you want to say, recognized then.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The objective to get the crop out of the field and drive on. But yeah, no, it's definitely at the forefront. Doesn't matter what ag thing I do now, compaction seems to pop up, which is good. Like I say, it usually for me comes down to the dollars and the cents, and just being a smaller operator and maybe not the land base to justify some of these purchases. So
I'm fascinated by the topic because there's continually things I'm hearing and learning where it's like, oh, that's actually counter to what most people I think. Like it's a topic where I think we need to chat about a lot more because I think it's really misunderstood across a very vast geography, and there's a lot of variables that play into it. Dry conditions, wet conditions, soil type, crop, like there's a lot of stuff that plays into it. So I think it's kind of a very, very misunderstood sort of topic when it comes to agronomy. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us here this week on the Farm Rapid Fire. All the best to you getting into that corn and getting it out of the field, okay?
Awesome. I really appreciate the call, bud.
This wet weather, I'll tell you what, it reminds you why you have tile. And, every week I try to get into that conversation about, tiled ground versus non-tiled ground in Ontario. And this is a kind of year where it's going to show itself because those people with tile are going to be able to get back into those fields in a much faster pace, much quicker after some of these rains, right? And so wet weather during harvest is a little bit different in say, Western Canada than it would be if you got corn in rotation. And for some of you who are growing grain corn in Manitoba, you know all about this. It's a little bit of a different issue, but you're just trying to as well, not just like really, really mark up those fields. And also, you got the grain, the drying that comes into play as well. So, challenging right now when it comes to some of the forecasts. I didn't want to bring up the forecast to Aaron, but it don't look too good. And that is quite unfortunate for many of the growers that are listening to the show in that region. Okay, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to finish up with Ashley Knapton, super knowledgeable on silage. She works for Pioneer Seeds Canada, and we'll chat with her right after this.
Canola is more than just a pretty face in the prairie landscape. It's a big business, both here and around the world, that requires you to be informed and up to date on everything it takes to grow a successful crop. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com has an expert library of video resources covering markets, agronomy, and more to help you grow a healthy and profitable canola crop. Visit canolaschool.com today. Brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
Some farmers say they don't have time. Some farmers say fitness is not for them. Some farmers say, I don't have time to eat right. It's time to start making changes today. Join me, Shaun Haney, and Gary Chambers as we cover all things fitness. That's the Fit Farmer Podcast, available on RealAgriculture.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And we finish off this week's Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, by talking to Ashley Knapton. She is Dairy Strategic Account Manager with Pioneer Seeds Canada out in Eastern Canada. Ashley, how's it going?
It's great, Shaun. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I say Eastern Canada, but what territory do you take after?
Yeah, mostly Ontario and Quebec. Nope, that's a lie. Ontario and the Maritimes would be where I spend most of my time. Okay,
cool. Now, when we chatted last time, we talked a lot about silage. That's where you're in that headspace on a daily basis. For your territory, how is this year's corn silage crop?
Yeah, it's been a great crop, and I think last time we talked a lot about the implications of growing conditions and harvest management and stuff, and now we're really starting to see those results, right? So we, as a recap, we were a little bit dry in June, and then we had lots of moisture through the end of the season. So that really drove some phenomenal yields, and that is definitely the number one story I'm getting is excellent yields, silage left in the field because they're going to combine it. Lots of good news story that way. And now we're starting to see some of those seed tests come back in where we start to see the results. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but some of the things that I anticipated are certainly coming true. We got a lot of rain, pre-tassel timing. And so we're seeing a bit of a decrease in fiber digestibility this year from last year because that crop was able to put more effort into those cell wall structures. We're also seeing a little bit less starch. And so as that plant really could grow to its full height potential, even though we had exceptional ears on them with lots of grain to them, we still diluted out that overall cob. And so we're seeing just slightly lower starch scores, which means, between the fiber digestibility and the starch, we're seeing just a little less, net energy from this crop maybe than previous years, which is going to be something important for producers to keep in mind.
Yeah, I want to broad brush it, but whether it's out east where you are or it's in southern Alberta where I am, it was a good year to be in silage. really good yields. And when it comes to silage on that front, there's the, what did it yield, the tonnage, but we're also very interested in some of those quality characteristics as you just talked about. It's really kind of a balancing act.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of why I get to do what I do, right? It's that there's so many factors to consider. When we grow grain corn, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but your goal, of course, is really high yield, clean corn, right? But when we grow silage and actually any forage for cattle, often we're willing to take a bit of a yield hit for improved quality because we're not growing silage. We're making milk or we're making beef, whatever our end goal is for that feed. We kind of have to look at the long game. And so, yeah, yields are great. That's awesome. But we have to make sure it's a really usable feed for the next, year to 14 months, maybe even longer, depending how good your yields were.
Okay, so let's look ahead. Where a lot of growers are picking next year's corn silage hybrid. Let's talk about that decision making and what they need to be considering as we think about 23 and what happened and apply it to the year ahead in 24.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you're right. Let's look at what happened in 23 because that could impact things, right? And one of the things that I really foresee it impacting is we're going to have some carryover inventory. We're going to have some leftover silage, maybe more than normal. That's a good thing. I want lots of fermented feed to transition into. So, if we can have a couple months of fermented feed, that's great. But if we're looking at having 6 months overlap, maybe there's an opportunity next year to plant just a little less corn silage and throw those acres into maybe grain corn or beans. So really sitting down with your seed rep and saying, hey, let's look at our whole cropping plan as well as our inventories and see what we can do to rejig things this year. We don't have to grow the same amount of silage year over year. And this year is a textbook example of that. And then the other thing is I would be having a conversation with my nutritionist and just confirming that we're on the same page for some of those quality metrics. Are you okay with using a dual purpose? Maybe a brown midrib corn with that supreme digestibility for fibers comes into play. Or maybe they want to see more starch out of it. And so then you're taking a look at what other options there are to really capture more starch out of it to make sure that your nutritionist can set those cows up for success taking milk. So year over year, things don't really change. We just kind of have to take what we've learned from that year and apply it to this fall.
With some of the growers you're working with, is there kind of a standard rule of thumb in terms of number of different hybrids from a risk management perspective that growers are planting?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And my gut reaction is like one. I think most folks pick one hybrid that they're going to run with for their silage. Depends a little bit on your scale of operation. If it's going to take you 2 weeks to get across all your silage acres, we will probably want to plant a couple of different maturities there. One of the other things to think about too is I work with BMR growers who are not interested in combining that brown midrib corn for very good reason. It doesn't have that late season stock score. It doesn't have that grain quality to it. So in that case, we'll plant, 90 to 95% of our acres in that brown midrib to capture that fiber digestibility. And then that extra 10%, we'll plant that in a dual purpose. So say we have an exceptional year like this year, that brown midrib is going to capture 100% of our yield, even on less acres. And then if we hit a droughty year, suddenly we can combine some more of those dual purpose acres, but also not get caught leaving them out for combining. So generally, folks like to keep it simple, 1 to 2. But it is nice, especially when you're looking at that dual purpose. That just gives us a little bit more flexibility to steal some of those acres that we might need.
Yeah, probably there is the longer the silage harvest window you typically have. Like I'm thinking about some of the, outside of your geography, but like in southern Alberta, right? We can have people doing a lot of acres on some of those big feed yards. They're probably going to plant more because they got a longer harvest window, right? So that there's probably a direct correlation there. I actually, very simple, but I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So, it depends a little bit how long it's going to take you to get across all those acres, but we would kind of do, 25% early, 50% kind of adjusted for that right maturity, and then 25% late. And that 25% late, we don't really want to go much more than that because we don't want to get caught by an early frost, right? And so planting 50% of our acres in that bulk right maturity for us means that most of it will be at the right moisture. The early obviously allows us to get started so the other stuff can dry down, and then a little bit of late, hopefully it finishes off and you can capture just even a little bit more out of those later season genetics.
Awesome. Ashley, fantastic information. Really appreciate it. Have yourself a great end here to 2023, and I know we'll be talking to you again very, very soon.
Thanks, Shaun. I look forward to it.
When we talk about trying to select the variety or the hybrid across all different crop types we're talking about here on RealAg Radio, that selection, it is just so important. It really, given the variables we're up against agronomically, the selection that we make in the fall now on some of these products, it has to match what next year's season is going to be like. It's not about last year's season. Now, we can look at last year's data and use that to sort of apply some of that knowledge going forward. Maybe I chose too long of a season of corn hybrid. I need to pull that back to manage my risk. There's an example of data that you can use from this past growing season. But just because dawn's an issue this year doesn't mean that dawn's an issue next year, and doesn't mean that because tar spot wasn't a big deal this year doesn't mean it isn't next year. There's all these things we're constantly having to deal with. So it is a critical, important decision across all crop types. Really take the time to make sure that you are doing the best, all the things possible to make the best decision you can. Doesn't mean you're going to be totally right, but make the best decision that you can. The Farmer Rapid Fire here on RealAg Radio is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Make sure you go to pioneer.com/Canada to find out more. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. And, of course, we will chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.